Welcome to Bedtime Horror Tales. Grab your headphones, dim the lights, and get comfortable under the covers. These are true scary stories, narrated with ambient sounds in the background, perfect for drifting off to sleep or staying wide awake. If you're enjoying the chills, please subscribe and hit the bell. It helps bring more stories like this. Now, let's dive in. My name is Mark, and I still wake up some nights tasting pine needles and blood in my mouth. It started as the kind of weekend every 30-something city dweller dreams about. 4 old college friends, a rented cabin in the Adirondacks, no cell service, no responsibilities. Just beer, a frozen lake, and 3 days of catching up. There was me, freelance photographer, recently single. Lena, my ex from senior year, now married to some finance guy in the city. We'd stayed friends, mostly. Jake, always the loudest, funniest one, now a high school gym teacher and weekend hunter. And Claire, quiet, sharp, the group's unofficial therapist, working as a social worker in Albany. We arrived Friday evening in late February. Snow was piled high along Route 17, the cabin a dark A-frame half a mile down an unplowed private road. The listing had called it secluded luxury. The photos showed a hot tub, stone fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Perfect. The owner had left a note on the counter. Welcome. Firewood in the shed. Generator in the basement if power goes. Cell service is spotty. Enjoy the peace. Back Sunday afternoon to check out. We laughed about going full off-grid. Cracked beers, played cards until 2 a.m. Everything felt easy, like we were 22 again. Saturday morning we hiked around the frozen lake. Jake carried his hunting rifle, just in case. He'd spotted fresh deer tracks near the shed. Claire teased him about overcompensating. Lena took photos on her fancy camera. I took none. I was trying to stay in the moment. By late afternoon, the temperature dropped hard. Wind howled through the pines. We retreated inside, started a fire, made chili. That's when the power flickered and died. No big deal. Generator instructions were taped inside the basement door. Jake and I went down together. The basement smelled of damp concrete and old oil. The generator was an ancient red Honda, half buried under tarps. We primed it, yanked the cord a dozen times. Nothing. Fuel was full, but the spark plug looked corroded. Jake cursed. I suggested we wait till morning. Maybe it would start when it warmed up. Back upstairs, the women had lit every candle they could find. The fire roared. We drank more. Played a dumb drinking game. Never Have I Ever, adult edition. Secrets spilled out like they always do when alcohol loosens tongues. Lena admitted she and her husband were in counseling. Claire confessed she'd been suspended from work 6 months earlier after a teenage client overdosed. The investigation cleared her, but she still carried the guilt. Jake laughed too loud and said he'd once slept with a student's mom. Nothing happened with the kid, he insisted, but it could have cost him his job. He'd never told anyone until now. I stayed quiet most of the night. I didn't have anything that dramatic. Around midnight, we heard the first vehicle. A low engine rumble, headlights sweeping across the snow outside the big windows. We all froze. Owner coming early? Claire asked. But the note said Sunday afternoon. The vehicle, an old pickup from the sound of it, slowed, idled at the end of the private road, then turned in. Headlights raked the front of the cabin before killing. Doors slammed. 2, maybe 3 people. We waited. No knock. No voices calling out. Jake grabbed his rifle from beside the door. Probably locals checking if anyone's here during the storm. But nobody came to the door. After 10 minutes, the truck started again and left. We laughed it off, nervous laughter, and went to bed. I took the loft bedroom, open to the living room below. The others took the 2 downstairs bedrooms. I couldn't sleep. Wind rattled the windows. Around 3 a.m., I heard it. Faint crunching in the snow outside. Footsteps circling the cabin. I crept to the loft railing and looked down. The fire had burned low, throwing long shadows. Nothing moved inside. The footsteps stopped beneath my window. I held my breath. Then silence. Morning brought gray light and 6 fresh inches of snow. The private road was plowed, just a single pass, wide enough for 1 vehicle. Jake found boot prints all around the cabin. Large, deep. They circled the house twice, paused under each window, then walked straight to the shed where the firewood was stacked. The shed door hung open. Inside, half the wood was gone. And on the dirt floor, someone had scratched a crude symbol with a stick or knife. A circle with an X through it. Claire recognized it immediately. That's the mark some meth cooks use up here. Marks territory. Warns others to stay out. We all stared at her. I work with addicts, she said quietly. I've seen it on abandoned houses. Means the place is claimed for cooking or storage. Jake checked his rifle. So some tweakers needed firewood? Or they saw lights last night, Lena said. Thought the cabin was empty. Realized it wasn't. Took what they needed and left. We tried the generator again. Still dead. No power, no heat except the fireplace. Temperatures dropping towards 0 at night. We had food for 2 more days. Plenty of alcohol. But the wood supply was now a problem. Jake suggested we drive out, get help. But the forecast on the emergency radio warned of whiteout conditions by evening. Route 17 could close. We voted. Stay put, conserve wood, wait for the owner, Sunday. Saturday night we burned furniture to stay warm. An old chair, some shelves from the basement. We kept the fire roaring, took shifts staying awake. Jake insisted. Around 1 a.m., the truck returned. This time it parked farther away. Engine off. No lights. We sat in the dark living room, fire low to avoid silhouetting ourselves in the windows. Jake held the rifle across his lap. Minutes dragged. Then we heard the shed door creak open. Whoever it was, they were taking the rest of the wood. Jake stood. I'm going out there. We begged him not to. He wouldn't listen. He slipped out the back door, circled wide through the trees. 5 minutes later, a single gunshot. Loud, echoing across the frozen lake. We screamed his name. No answer. Lena and I grabbed flashlights, ran outside. Tracks led from the shed into the forest. Jake's boot prints followed them. Then a scuffle in the snow. Blood, bright red against white. A drag trail heading deeper into the pines. Jake was gone. We retreated inside, barricaded the doors with the couch and kitchen table. Claire was shaking uncontrollably. They took him, she whispered. Or worse. We didn't sleep. Dawn revealed more tracks, multiple sets now, converging on the cabin. Someone had stood outside the windows for hours, breathing fog onto the glass. Handprints smeared the panes. The emergency radio crackled with a winter storm warning. 18 to 24 inches expected. High winds, zero visibility. State police advising no travel. We were trapped. Sunday midday, no owner. We burned books, board games, anything that would catch. The cabin grew colder anyway. Around 3 p.m., we heard voices outside. Low, arguing. 3 men, maybe 4. Accents thick, rural. They weren't speaking to us. They were discussing the cabin like contractors sizing up a job. Told you it was occupied. Don't matter now, one less mouth. Get the stuff from the shed, cook tonight, be gone by morning. Claire translated the parts we couldn't catch. She'd heard similar talk in the homes of clients. They weren't just thieves. This cabin, or its shed, was being used as a remote cook site. Isolated, private road, rarely visited in winter. Perfect. And we had walked in on them. They couldn't leave witnesses. We whispered plans. Hide? Run? Fight? Only one gun, 6 rounds left. Lena found the owner's shotgun in a locked cabinet, key hidden above the door frame like every rural house ever. 2 shells, 8 shots total. Dusk fell early under the storm clouds. Snow started as heavy flakes. The first attempt came at full dark. Back door rattled, then banging, then an axe biting into wood. We waited in the living room, backs to the fireplace, weapons ready. The door splintered. A man stepped through, tall, bearded, wearing a Carhartt jacket crusted with ice. Face gaunt, eyes wild, pupils pinned. He saw us and smiled like he'd won the lottery. Jake's rifle spoke first. The man dropped. But 2 more pushed in behind him, screaming rage. Shotgun boomed, Lena firing. One went down, clutching his leg. The third tackled Claire, knife flashing. I swung a fireplace poker, caught him in the temple. He went limp. Silence, except for the wind and Claire's wet breathing. The knife had found her lung. We dragged the bodies outside, used their own truck keys to check the pickup. Battery dead, cables cut. They'd planned to strand us. Claire died an hour later. We wrapped her in blankets on the porch. Couldn't bring her inside with the blood. Lena and I sat by the dying fire, sharing the last 2 bullets. We heard the 4th man out there somewhere, whistling as he walked the perimeter, waiting for us to freeze or make a run. At some point in the endless night, Lena looked at me and said, "We should have just given them the damn cabin." I didn't answer. There was nothing to say. Morning never really came, just a lighter shade of gray through the blizzard. The owner arrived Tuesday, once the plows finally cleared Route 17. He found the cabin door hacked open, blood frozen on the floors, 3 bodies in the snow. Lena and I were sitting on the couch, holding hands, frostbitten but alive. The 4th man was never caught. Police said the cook site in the shed had been active for months. High-grade meth, distributed downstate. The men we killed had records: assault, burglary, 1 manslaughter. They called it self-defense. But every year around February, I get a postcard. No return address, just a crude circle with an X scratched into the paper. I keep them all in a shoebox. And I never go north of Albany again. Story 2. I never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural. Life's scary enough without inventing things that go bump in the night for no reason. But what happened to me 3 years ago, it was real. Too real. My name's Alex, and this is what went down in that old rental house. I found the place online, a 2-story Victorian-style fixer-upper on the quiet edge of town. The rent was suspiciously cheap for the size. 3 bedrooms upstairs, a decent living room, kitchen, and a full basement I figured I'd use for storage. The landlord, Mr. Hargrove, was a gruff older guy in his 70s who met me on the porch with a clipboard and a half-hearted handshake. He talked fast, pointing out the original hardwood floors and charming crown molding while glossing over the peeling paint and the faint musty smell that seemed to rise from the floorboards. "One thing," he said, pausing at the basement door in the hallway. "It floods a little during heavy rain. Don't store anything valuable down there." I nodded. I worked from home as a data analyst. Spreadsheets, reports, endless Zoom calls, so I didn't need much space. The basement could stay empty for all I cared. I moved in at the start of summer. The first few weeks were peaceful. I unpacked slowly, set up my office in the smallest upstairs bedroom, bought a new couch for the living room, and fell into a routine. Work all day, gym 3 times a week, microwave dinner, stream shows until 1 or 2 a.m. The house creaked occasionally, but old houses do that. Nothing felt off. The first strange thing happened in mid-October. I was on the couch watching a true crime documentary when I heard it. A low, heavy thump from directly below me. Like something big dropping onto concrete. I muted the TV and waited. Nothing. I told myself it was the house settling, or maybe a branch hitting the side in the wind. Went to bed. But it kept happening. A thump here, a scrape there. Always at night, always from the basement. Sometimes it sounded like a chair being dragged slowly across the floor. I'd pause whatever I was doing, strain to listen, and eventually convince myself it was nothing. Old pipes expanding and contracting, mice in the walls, something rational. One Thursday night in late October, the sound was unmistakable. Slow, deliberate footsteps pacing back and forth. Shuffle, pause, shuffle. I sat frozen on the couch, heart picking up speed. After a minute, I grabbed a flashlight, walked to the basement door, and cracked it open. Cold, damp air rolled up the stairs. I flipped the light switch. A single bare bulb flickered on, revealing bare concrete walls, an ancient furnace, a washer-dryer hookup, and stacks of dusty boxes left by previous tenants. I crept halfway down the stairs, shining the light into every corner. Nothing. The small ground-level window was closed and latched. No footprints in the thin layer of dust on the floor. I stood there for 5 full minutes, listening. Silence. Embarrassed at my own paranoia, I went back upstairs and tried to laugh it off. The next morning, I called Mr. Hargrove. "Hey, I've been hearing noises from the basement at night. Footsteps, dragging sounds." He chuckled like I'd told a mild joke. "That old house has character. Probably raccoons or squirrels getting in somehow. Happens every few years. Put out some repellent. I'll knock $20 off next month's rent." I thanked him and hung up. I didn't buy repellent. I just turned the TV volume higher at night. November brought colder weather and heavier rain. The noises grew more frequent, and a new smell started seeping up through the floor vents. Sour, sweaty, like gym clothes left too long in a bag, mixed with the faint rot of old food. I sprayed Febreze like it was holy water, opened windows even when it was freezing, ran the furnace fan constantly. The smell always returned stronger in the evenings. By then, I was losing sleep. The pacing below my bedroom had a rhythm to it. 10 steps one way, pause, 10 steps back. Sometimes it went on for hours. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, running through every logical explanation and coming up empty. I bought a cheap Wi-Fi security camera and mounted it in the hallway facing the basement door. Every morning I checked the app. Nothing but footage of me stumbling to the kitchen for coffee or doing laundry. One Saturday in early December, I decided enough was enough. I spent the afternoon clearing the basement, hauling out broken lamps, moldy boxes, ancient holiday decorations no one had claimed. In the far corner behind the furnace, I found a narrow door I'd somehow never noticed. It was painted the same off-white as the walls, knob rusty, no lock. I hesitated, then turned the knob. It resisted at first, then swung inward with a groan. Inside was a small, windowless room, maybe 8 by 10 feet, cement floor, bare walls. In one corner lay a dirty sleeping bag unrolled on the floor. Beside it, a plastic grocery bag stuffed with empty ramen cups, candy wrappers, and water bottles. A battered backpack leaned against the wall, and on top of it sat a half-eaten chocolate bar, wrapper freshly crinkled. My stomach dropped so hard I nearly gagged. Someone had been living here. Recently. I backed out, slammed the door, and called the police. 2 officers arrived within the hour. They searched thoroughly, took photos, bagged some trash for prints. Classic squatter setup, the older cop said. Probably coming in through that basement window. The latch is busted. Easy to pry from outside. They told me to board the window, change the locks, and consider a dog. No one was there now, they said, but these types are persistent. I nailed plywood over the window that same day, installed a heavy deadbolt on the basement door, and tried to put it behind me. For almost 3 weeks, nothing. No footsteps, no smells. I slept through the night for the first time in months. I even started going out again, met friends for drinks, felt human. Then one night in early January, I woke abruptly at 3:17 a.m. to a soft, deliberate sound. The basement door handle jiggling. Slowly, testing. Click, click, stop. I sat bolt upright, phone in hand, ready to dial 911. It stopped after 10 seconds. In the morning, the deadbolt was still engaged, no scratches on the door. The camera showed only empty hallway. I told myself it was the house shifting or wind rattling the knob. But I started checking locks 3, 4 times before bed. Mid-January, the pacing returned. Fainter, but unmistakable. And the smell came back stronger than ever. One afternoon, I went down with a crowbar, opened the hidden door. The sleeping bag was unrolled again. Fresh trash, empty bean cans, a crumpled McDonald's bag still greasy. Someone had been back, impossible with the window boarded and the new deadbolt. I called the police again. They pried off the plywood, fresh scuff marks on the inside, like someone had tried to force it open from within, but failed. Still no one there. "We'll increase patrols," they promised. Might be the same guy. They find ways. I couldn't stay alone anymore. I crashed at my buddy Mark's apartment for 4 nights. When I returned, I hired a handyman to brick up the basement window completely and install a steel security door at the top of the stairs with a keypad lock. That finally seemed to work. Winter dragged into spring. No noises, no smells. I got a small promotion at work, started dating a woman named Lena. Life felt almost normal again. Lena stayed over most weekends. One night in late April, we were asleep when we both jolted awake to scratching. Slow, deliberate nails dragging across wood directly beneath the bed. Scratch, pause. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Lena clutched my arm. "Alex, what the hell is that?" I forced calm into my voice. "Old house. Mice, probably." But it continued for minutes, like something trying to dig upward. We got up, I grabbed the crowbar, and we went downstairs together. Unlocked the steel door, lights blazing, basement empty. Hidden room. Sleeping bag gone, but fresh footprints in the dust leading to a corner I hadn't inspected closely before. There was a small crawlspace access panel flush with the floor, previously hidden under the sleeping bag. It was pried open just enough to slip through. Lena went pale. "This isn't mice, Alex. Someone's been living under your house." We called the police that same night. They searched again, flashlight beams sweeping the cramped crawl space. Empty, but clear signs of recent use. Crushed food wrappers, a flattened cardboard mattress. The lead officer shook his head. "He's been coming and going through the crawl space for months, maybe longer. Probably knew the house from years back. We'll dust for prints, but..." They suggested I move. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. I was angry now. This was my home. I installed more cameras, one in the main basement, one pointed directly at the hidden room, and one inside the crawl space itself. All motion activated, all feeding to my phone. The scratching stopped for a week, then started again, only when Lena was over or when I had the TV loud. Almost like he knew when I was distracted. A few times, when I woke up in the morning, I'd notice small, damp footprints on the wooden floor right next to my bed. Bare feet that had tracked up a little water or condensation, half dried by morning. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe I'd spilled a glass of water in my sleep or tracked it in myself. But after a while, the suspicion grew. On the nights I slept deeply, I wasn't alone in the room. Someone had quietly climbed up from below and stood there, beside the bed, watching me sleep. One night in May, alone again, Lena had wisely started making excuses. The crawlspace camera pinged at 3:02 a.m. I opened the app with shaking hands. Live feed. The hidden room door was open. Movement. A gaunt figure crawling out from the crawlspace panel. Mid-40s, bearded, clothes filthy and torn. He stood slowly, stretched like he'd just woken from a nap, then shuffled into the main basement. He opened the dryer where I kept snacks, pulled out a protein bar, ate it in 3 bites, drank straight from the utility sink. Then he turned and looked directly into the camera. Smiled, waved slowly. The mic picked up a hoarse, "Finally caught me, huh? Took you long enough." He'd been there the entire time. Not breaking in from outside, he'd discovered the crawlspace years earlier, maybe when he worked on the house for a previous owner. He lived beneath my floorboards like a parasite. Stole food I thought I'd misplaced. Used the sink to wash. Loosened floorboards under my bed so he could scratch at them and listen and watch through the tiny gaps. Police arrived at dawn and arrested him as he tried to retreat into the crawlspace. His name was Robert Klein, former handyman, addicted to painkillers after a back injury. Lost everything. Job, family, home. Mr. Hargrove vaguely remembered hiring him a decade earlier for minor repairs. Robert never physically harmed me, but knowing he'd listened to my phone calls, my showers, my late-night arguments with myself on bad days, it shattered something inside me. I broke the lease the next week, paid the penalty, and moved into a conditional apartment downtown. No basement, no crawl space, just concrete and neighbors I can actually see. Most nights I sleep fine now, but sometimes, very late, I swear I hear faint scratching from the floor below, from the unit underneath. I tell myself it's nothing. Pipes, neighbors renovating. What else can I do? Story 3.
My name is Ryan Hayes, and for the last year, I've been trying to convince myself that what happened to me was just a string of bad luck and clever hacking. But deep down, I know it was one guy. One patient, obsessive guy who decided to make my life his hobby. I'm 34, software developer, live alone in a 2-bedroom condo in Austin, Texas. I work remote for a fintech company. Good pay, flexible hours, the kind of job that lets me game late or hit the trails on weekends. I'm not famous online, but I have a decent presence. Twitter with about 8,000 followers where I post tech rants and memes, a GitHub with public repos, a Strava for my runs, a Letterboxd for movies. Nothing crazy. I thought I was careful. Strong passwords, 2-factor authentication everywhere, no real name on gaming accounts. It started small, back in February. I woke up one morning to an email from Twitter. Your password has been changed. I hadn't changed it. I clicked the reset link, logged back in, turned on 2-factor authentication again, it had been disabled, and changed the password to something new and random. 20 characters, numbers, symbols. 2 days later, same thing. Password changed. This time from an IP in Romania. I locked it down harder. New password. Enabled login alerts. Started using a password manager. A week of peace. Then my Spotify started playing weird playlists at 3 a.m. True crime podcasts, songs about stalking, stuff like Every Breath You Take. I'd wake up to it blasting from my living room speaker. The activity log showed playback from a device labeled Ryan's Phone 2, a device I'd never added. I removed all sessions, changed password again. That same night, a DM on Twitter from an account with no picture, username @echo_Ryan512. Nice choice on the new password. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special chars, very secure. But you reused part of it from your old banking app, didn't you? I stared at the screen. The password I'd just set had a phrase I'd used years ago in a different account, one I'd thought was dead. I blocked the account, reported it. The next morning, my bank app notified me of a failed login attempt from Venezuela. I froze. Called the bank, froze the account, opened a new one at a different bank. My friends thought I was being paranoid. Just a script kiddie brute-forcing common passwords, my buddy Jake said. Change everything and it'll stop. But it didn't stop. March. My Strava account started showing runs I hadn't done. Short ones, 2 to 3 miles, around neighborhoods near my condo. The titles, checking the usual route. He took the long way today. I hadn't run in weeks because of a twisted ankle. I deleted the activities, made the account private, stopped syncing my watch. Then my Nest thermostat started adjusting itself. I'd come home to 85 degrees in winter or wake up freezing at 60. The app log showed manual changes from home when I was at work. I factory reset it, bought a dumb thermostat. April. I got an email from my electric company.
Bill paid in full, $0 balance. I hadn't paid it early. Someone had logged in and paid $400 from a prepaid card. Same week, my Amazon account ordered things I didn't want. A GPS tracker, a Ring camera, binoculars, a book called The Gift of Fear. All shipped to a P.O. box in my zip code. Amazon canceled the orders, refunded, locked the account. I started using incognito for everything. New browser profiles, VPN. May. My work Slack started showing me as typing when I wasn't. Messages I didn't send appeared in channels. Anyone up for drinks after the stand-up? Or, that bug in payments is killing me. My boss pulled me aside. Ryan, you okay? You've been a bit off lately. I showed him the logs. IT got involved. They found nothing on my machine. No malware, no keylogger. They gave me a new laptop anyway. June. I was on a first date. Girl named Lauren from Hinge. We met at a bar downtown. Halfway through, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She's cute. Laughs at all your jokes. Order the IPA on tap. It's better than the bottled one you usually get. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, heart pounding. Looked out the window. Couldn't see anyone watching. I ended the date early. Told Lauren I felt sick. Blocked the number. July. I stopped dating apps. Stopped going out much. Then my Ring camera, new one, new account, caught something. 2:14 a.m. A man in a hoodie standing across the street, staring up at my window for 5 minutes. Face obscured. Then he walked away. Police came. No crime committed, they said. Just a guy standing. But the timestamp matched a login attempt on my old Twitter from a coffee shop Wi-Fi 2 miles away. August. I moved. New condo, different suburb. Unlisted address. New phone number. Told no one except work and family. For 2 months, nothing. I started to breathe again. Went back to running. Posted a cautious tweet about a new project. September. A new follower on Twitter. @newstart_Ryan787. No posts. Profile pic. My condo building from Google Street View. I blocked it. That night, my new Nest, I'd caved and bought another, turned the heat to 90. Process log. Changed from away to home. I was home. Alone. October. My new bank account got a deposit. $50 from friend. Memo. Coffee fund. Same day, my Venmo showed a request for $50 from a random account. For the coffee you owe me. I closed both accounts. November. I hired a private investigator. Ex-cop, specialized in cyberstalking. He found patterns. The IP addresses all routed through public Wi-Fi. Libraries, coffee shops, parks near my old places. The usernames always had numbers related to me. 512, old area code. 787, new one. The prepaid cards used for payments were bought with cash at stores I'd shopped at. But no face, no name. The PI suggested a trap. Post something fake, see if he bites. I posted on Twitter. Heading to Houston for the weekend. First time at the Manil collection. I didn't go anywhere. That Saturday, the PI staked out my condo. Caught a guy in a gray sedan parked down the street for hours. Got the plate. Cursed to a rental under a fake name. But the guy was gone by the time police arrived. December. Last week. I got an email from an address that was my exact full name at proton.me. Subject: we should talk. Body: Ryan, you've been smart. New place, new routines, no posts about runs or dates. But you still order Thai from the same app every Friday. Pad Ki Mao, extra spicy, no peanuts. I don't want to hurt you. I just want you to know you're not as invisible as you think. Merry Christmas. Your shadow. Attached: a photo of my takeout bag on my doorstep, taken 30 minutes earlier. Police are involved again. Higher level this time. Cybercrimes Task Force. I'm staying in a hotel until they figure it out. I don't know who he is. Ex-coworker? Someone I blocked on Reddit? A random guy who fixated on my tweets? All I know is he's been inside my digital life for a year. And now he's outside my real one. I haven't ordered takeout since. I haven't posted anything. I barely sleep. Because every notification, every shadow outside the window, every unexpected email could be him, reminding me he's still there, still watching, still knowing. Story 4. My name is Tyler Brooks, and I've spent the last 8 months trying to forget the worst mistake I ever made: accepting a friend request from someone I hadn't seen since high school. I'm 35, a paramedic in Chicago. Long shifts, adrenaline highs, quiet nights off with beer and video games. I'm not big on social media, but I have a Facebook account for keeping up with old crew from the firehouse and family back in Ohio. My profile is locked down, friends only, no public posts, nothing flashy. Last April, I got a friend request from Megan Walsh. Profile pic: a woman in her early 30s, brunette, smiling at the camera in scrubs. Bio said she was an ER nurse in Chicago. Mutual friends: 0. But the name rang a bell. Megan Walsh was a girl I vaguely remembered from high school. Quiet, smart, sat in the back of chemistry class. We weren't friends, but we'd been in the same circle once or twice. I accepted, figured it was harmless. She messaged me the same day. "Tyler Brooks! Wow, small world. Remember me from West High? I just moved to Chicago for work. Crazy running into you here." We chatted a bit. She asked about my job, told me about hers. Said she'd recognized my name from a news article about a big rescue I'd been part of the year before. It felt nice, someone from the past reaching out. No drama. We messaged on and off for weeks. Nothing flirty, just friendly. She'd send memes about night shifts, ask how the job was treating me. I'd vent about tough calls. May. She suggested meeting for coffee. "We're both in the medical field. Might be nice to swap war stories." I said sure. We set it for a Saturday morning at a spot near my apartment. The day came. I waited 45 minutes. She never showed. Messaged her. "Hey, everything okay?" Reply an hour later. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Got pulled into an extra shift. Rain check?" "No big deal. Happens." We rescheduled twice more. Same thing. Last-minute cancellations, always work-related. I started to think she was flaking, but the messages kept coming. Encouraging after bad shifts, remembering details I'd mentioned weeks earlier. June. Things got personal. I'd had a rough call. A kid didn't make it. I posted nothing about it, but I mentioned it in a message to her, just needing to vent. Her reply: "I'm so sorry, Tyler. That's the worst part of this job. You're stronger than you think." Then she sent a photo, her in scrubs, tired smile, holding a coffee cup that said, "World's okayest nurse." Cute. Real. We started talking more. Late night messages when we were both off shift. She knew when I was working without me telling her. Said she'd memorized my schedule from stories I'd told. July. She suggested coming over after a shift. "I'm off at 7 a.m. You're off at 8. I could bring breakfast." I hesitated, but said yes. 7:30 a.m., knock at my door. I opened it. No one there. Just a bag from my favorite diner on the mat. Egg sandwich, hash browns, coffee exactly how I like it. Note inside: "Had to run. Trauma came in. Eat before it gets cold. M." I texted thanks. She replied, "Anytime." August. The gifts started. A new stethoscope showed up at the station, engraved with my initials. A hoodie from my favorite band left on my truck windshield. Flowers on my doorstep after a bad week. Always with notes in her handwriting. I asked how she knew where I worked, where I parked. "Small world, Chicago medical community," she said. "And you mentioned the station number once." I had. Months ago. September. I started dating someone, Cassie, a teacher I met at a bar. Things were going well. I mentioned Cassie to Megan in passing. The messages changed. "You deserve someone who understands the job. Teachers have summers off. Paramedics don't. Just saying." Is she okay with the hours? I told her it was casual, none of her business. She apologized. Went quiet for a week. Then Cassie broke things off. Said she'd gotten weird anonymous messages, photos of us together, warnings that I was not who I seemed. I knew. I confronted Megan. "That wasn't me, Tyler. I'd never." But the messages stopped after that. October. I blocked her, changed my privacy settings again, tried to move on. November. I came home from a 24-hour shift to find my apartment door unlocked. Inside, candles lit, dinner on the table, my favorite steak and potatoes. Music playing softly. A woman standing in my kitchen, back to me. Brunette. Scrubs. She turned. It wasn't Megan Walsh from high school. It was a woman I'd never seen before, smiling like she belonged there. "Hi, Tyler. Dinner's ready. You must be exhausted." I backed away, hand on my phone. She tilted her head. "Don't be scared. I'm Megan. We've known each other for months." I called 911. Police came. She was gone by the time they arrived, out the fire escape. They found prints, but no match. She'd been in my apartment for hours. Cooked. Waited. On my fridge, photos printed. Me at work, me running errands, me with Cassie. Hundreds of them. Going back a year. Before the friend request. Before I ever met her online. The real Megan Walsh from high school lives in California. Never moved to Chicago. Never sent a request. This woman had created her. Stalked me. Became her. To get close. Police are still looking. I moved again. New city, new job. But sometimes, late at night, I get a message from a new account. Different name, different face. "Hi, Tyler. Saw you're new in town. Small world. I don't accept friend requests anymore, but I know she's still out there, finding new ways, new names, waiting for me to let her in again.
Story 5. My name is Marcus Hale, and I still can't drive at night without checking my rearview mirror every few seconds. I'm 38, a long-haul trucker based out of Phoenix. I've been doing cross-country runs for 15 years, coast to coast, border to border. I know every major interstate like the back of my hand. I-10, I-40, I-80, I-70. I've seen it all. Blizzards in Colorado, dust storms in New Mexico, fog so thick in Arkansas you can't see 10 feet ahead. But nothing prepared me for what happened on I-40 west of Amarillo last October. It was a Tuesday night, clear skies, full moon. I'd picked up a load in Oklahoma City headed for Flagstaff, left around 8 p.m., planning to push through to Tucumcari for a break. Light traffic, good conditions. Around midnight, somewhere between Shamrock and Groom, I noticed headlights in my mirror. Big rig like mine, maybe a Kenworth or Peterbilt, running dark. No marker lights, just headlights. Kept a steady distance, about half a mile back. No big deal. Truckers pace each other all the time. I was doing 70. He matched it. I sped up to 75. He sped up. Slowed to 65. He slowed. I figured he was playing games. Some guys do that when they're bored. I keyed the CB. Hey, westbound, you on my hammer? Want to pass or you just sightseeing? Static. Tried again on different channels. Nothing. I shrugged it off. Took the next exit for fuel at McLean, thinking he'd go by. He took the exit too. Pulled into the same truck stop, parked 3 spots down. I fueled up, grabbed coffee, used the restroom. Kept an eye out. Driver never got out, just sat there, engine idling. I got back on the road. He followed. Same distance. I called my dispatcher on satellite phone. Cell service spotty out there. Told him I had a tail. He laughed. Probably just running the same route, Mark. Relax. But it didn't feel right. I pushed hard, 80 miles per hour where I could. He kept up. Took random exits, looped through small towns, got back on. He stayed with me. Around 3 a.m., near Adrian, I saw flashing lights ahead. State trooper pulling someone over. I slowed, hoping to flag him down. The sedan passed me. The trooper was pulling over a different truck. My follower kept going, disappeared into the dark. I pulled over anyway, told the trooper what was happening. He ran my plates, checked my logbook. Everything clean. Saw a lot of trucks out tonight, he said. Probably nothing. Call if he shows up again. I got back on the road. 20 minutes later, headlights in the mirror. Same ones. I floored it. He floored it. I called 911. Dispatcher took the report, said they'd alert troopers in the area. No one ever showed. At dawn, near Tucumcari, he finally turned off, took an exit, and vanished. I stopped at a truck stop, slept 4 hours in the bunk, figured it was over. But it wasn't. Next run, 2 weeks later, same route, same time of night. Headlights appeared. Same distance, same behavior. I took a different route this time, south on I-27 to Lubbock, then west on 84. He followed. Every turn, every detour. I stopped answering the CB when other drivers asked what was going on. They'd see us,
2 trucks running together, no passing, no communication. Started calling us the convoy. I changed companies. New truck, different plates, new routes. He found me. Always at night. Always the same flashlight. Always exactly half a mile back. I started recording everything. Dashcam footage, mile markers, times. Showed it to police in 3 states. They opened files, ran searches on similar reports. Found dozens. Truckers across the Southwest talking about the shadow rig. Black Kenworth, no markings, no plates visible. Follows for hours, sometimes days. Never passes. Never stops. Never communicates. Some say it's a ghost truck. I don't believe in ghosts. But last month, on I-10 near Lordsburg, I finally got a clear look. Full moon. Empty road. He pulled up beside me for the first time. Window to window. I looked over. Driver was wearing my exact jacket, the one I'd lost at a rest stop 6 months earlier. Same build, same beard. He looked right at me, smiled, then dropped back, half a mile. I haven't taken a night run since. I'm looking for local work, day shifts only. But sometimes, when I'm driving home at dusk, I see headlights in the mirror. Same distance. Weak for dark. I don't look back anymore. I just drive faster.
Story 6. My name is Derek Vaughn, and I still wake up some nights convinced I hear the echo of boots on polished tile floors that aren't there. I'm 36 now. 3 years ago, I was a burned-out ex-cop who took a night security job at Westridge Mall in a fading suburb of Cleveland. The mall was built in '88. 2 levels, glass skylights, faux marble floors, the kind of place that used to be packed on weekends but had been bleeding stores for a decade. Sears closed in 2019. JCPenney followed in 2021. Half the upper level was dark gates and lease available signs. Foot traffic on weekdays was mostly seniors walking laps and teens skipping school. The night shift paid $18.50 an hour with benefits, and the work was simple. Arrive at 10:45 p.m., overlap an hour with the day guard, do 4 full rounds of the property, interior and exterior, monitor cameras, write reports, leave at 7 a.m. Quiet. No adrenaline. Exactly what I needed after 8 years on patrol and 1 bad call that ended with me on administrative leave and eventually out of the badge. My partner on the schedule was Ray Kowalski. 54, 28 years on the job, thin gray hair, always wore the same navy uniform shirt pressed sharp enough to cut paper. He drank coffee from an old steel thermos and spoke in short sentences. We weren't friends, but we were professional. He'd brief me on anything from the day shift, shoplifters banned, leaky roof in the food court, broken sensor on gate 7, and I'd do the same for him on my days off. The first thing that felt off happened in late January. I came in for my Sunday to Thursday swing. Ray was at the desk, filling out the logbook like always. "Quiet day?" I asked, hanging my coat. He nodded without looking up. "Couple kids smoking in the parking garage. Gave him a warning." I glanced at the log. His handwriting, tight, slanted capitals, was there for the 3 p.m. entry. But the timestamp on the camera feed when I walked in showed Ray arriving at 10:42 p.m., same as me. I didn't think much of it. Maybe he forgot to log the earlier incident. February. I started noticing small favors.
I keep a bottle of ibuprofen in my locker for old knee pain from the job. One night it was empty. Next night, full bottle, same generic brand from the same pharmacy I use. I asked Ray, "You see anyone in my locker?" He shook his head. "Nope." I started locking it. The bottle still refilled. My lunch, always the same turkey sandwich from the deli across the street, would sometimes be fresher than the one I'd packed. Or the chips would be a flavor I'd mentioned wanting to try. Little things. Convenient. Unnerving. March. The cameras. We had 92 working feeds. Old analog system upgraded to digital in 2015. I'd watch them during slow hours. One night, I saw myself on camera 34, upper level near the old Gap, walking my exact route, but I was sitting in the office. I rewound. The figure wore the same uniform, same build, same gait, left knee a little stiff, just like mine. But the face was shadowed by the cap. I checked the timestamp. 3:17 a.m. I'd been on break. I pulled the personnel file photos. Ray's face, but the walk was mine. I showed the footage to the mall manager, Carla. She watched it twice. "That's weird. Could be a glitch. Old system overlays sometimes." I asked for a backup. She gave it to me on a thumb drive. When I played it at home, the figure was gone. Just empty corridor. April. I started varying my rounds. Different order, different timing. The figure on camera still appeared. Always doing the route I would have done. Always 10 minutes ahead. Or behind. I set up my phone to record the monitors. Caught it. The figure. Clear this time. Ray's face. But walking like me. I confronted him. Next overlap. "Ray, what the hell is this?" Showed him the phone video. He watched without expression. "That's not me." "It's your face." He shrugged. "Deep fake. Kids do that crap." But his voice was flat. No surprise. May. I took a week off, first vacation in 2 years. Flew to Florida, stayed with my sister. When I came back, Ray looked like he hadn't slept. Eyes red, uniform rumpled, stubble. He handed me the logbook. "You're back early." My first shift back was that night, but the log showed me signed in every day. Same handwriting as mine. Same incident reports, small things I would have written. Leaky pipe, food court. Gate 12 sensor faulty. Teenagers loitering, lot C. My style. My phrasing. I checked badge scans. My badge scanned in and out every night. While I was in Florida. Plane tickets, hotel receipts, photos time-stamped. I showed Carla. She called corporate security. They pulled everything. Ray had used a cloned badge. My spare, reported lost 6 months earlier. He'd been covering my shifts. Alone. Wearing my uniform, spare from laundry. Walking my routes. Writing my reports. For a week. Corporate fired him. Police charged him. Trespassing, identity theft, fraud. He didn't fight it. Just said, "The mall needs coverage." In interrogation, he admitted he'd been doing it for months. Not full shifts, just parts. Learning me. My walk. My handwriting. My habits. He'd watched me for a year. From blind spots. From the maintenance corridors. Copied my keys. Took my spare uniform. Practiced. Wanted the full-time night position. but also liked being me. Quietly, perfectly. No one noticed. Until I did. He got probation, community service. I quit the next day. Couldn't walk those halls anymore, knowing he'd been there, in my skin, when I wasn't. Some nights I still hear it, the echo of boots, matching mine, even though I'm miles away, in a new job, new city. I wonder if he's still there, walking rounds, in the dark, waiting for the next guard to show him how it's done. Perfectly. Story 7. My name is Ethan Brooks, and the most unsettling period of my life began with a promise I made to my dying father. A promise that eventually led me to question everything I thought I knew about my family. I was 35 when Dad passed, living in a modest apartment in Columbus, Ohio, and working as a claims adjuster for an insurance company. The job was routine, reviewing files, calling clients, approving or denying payouts. It paid the bills and left my evenings free. My father, Thomas Brooks, had been a long-haul trucker his whole life, and after my mother left when I was 10, it was just the two of us in that old house on the edge of town. We weren't close. He was on the road more than he was home, and when he was around, there was a distance between us. Polite conversations, shared meals in silence, separate lives under the same roof. I left for college at 18 and saw him maybe a handful of times a year after that. The cancer diagnosis changed everything. Pancreatic, stage 4. 18 months of treatments that bought time, but no cure. By the end, he was in hospice at the house, frail and in constant pain. I took family leave, moved back in, and cared for him full-time. Those final months forced conversations we'd avoided for decades. Regrets, memories, small admissions of love buried under years of awkwardness. One clear night near the end, when the morphine gave him a window of lucidity, he gripped my hand tightly. "Ethan," he rasped, "promise me something." I leaned closer. "Anything. Visit my grave, once a month, the first Saturday. Talk to me. Tell me about your life. Don't let me fade away." His eyes were desperate, searching mine. I'd never seen him vulnerable like that. "I promise, Dad. First Saturday every month." He relaxed then, and 2 days later, he was gone. The funeral was quiet, 10 people at most, old trucking friends and a couple neighbors. We buried him in Green Lawn Cemetery on the south side of Columbus, a large, peaceful place with rolling hills and ancient oaks. His plot was in a newer section, overlooking a small pond. I kept the promise right away. The first visit was the first Saturday in June. I bought daisies, Mom's favorite, the only flower I remembered him bringing home. The grave was still fresh earth, no headstone yet. I stood there awkwardly for 20 minutes, then started talking. About work, the house I was selling, how sorry I was we hadn't been closer. It felt strange speaking to a mound of dirt, but I did it. July was hotter. I brought different flowers and stayed longer, sitting on the grass. I updated him on a promotion I was chasing, on a bad date I'd had. The words came easier. By August, the headstone arrived. Simple granite, his name, dates, beloved father. I traced the letters with my fingers and talked for nearly an hour about clearing out his things, finding old photos, remembering small moments I'd forgotten. September brought a folding chair. I sat for over an hour, reading aloud from a book I was enjoying, telling him about Sarah, a woman from work I'd started seeing. The ritual became something I looked forward to, a quiet space to process everything. October was chilly. I brought a thermos of coffee, poured a little on the ground with a wry smile. "Your share, old man," and laughed at myself. I told him about Sarah more seriously, how she made me feel hopeful. November had the first snow flurries. I cleared leaves from the stone and talked about the house sale closing, the move to a downtown apartment. Life felt like it was moving forward. December's first Saturday fell near Christmas. I brought a small wreath and stayed until dusk, telling him about Sarah moving in with me soon, how the holidays didn't feel as empty this year. January was freezing. I bundled up and sat with my coffee, updating him on the promotion that came through, on settling into the new place. Stability felt real. February aligned with Valentine's. I brought Sarah along. She waited while I introduced her to the stone, told Dad she was good for me. She left her own flowers afterward. March marked 1 year. I brought a small bottle of his favorite bourbon, poured a shot onto the grave, drank one myself. I talked for 2 hours about regrets, anger I'd held onto, love I'd never expressed. I left feeling unburdened. April brought the final house closing. Sarah waited in the car again, giving me space. I told Dad about letting go of his belongings, how strange it felt. May was warm, grass lush. I sat on the ground, back against the stone, and talked about wedding plans. Sarah and I were engaged. June marked 2 years. I brought a 6-pack of his old favorite beer, drank 3, poured 3. Stayed until sunset, sharing childhood stories I hadn't thought about in decades. July was humid. That day, I noticed something unusual. A fresh bouquet of roses on the grave. Not the type I ever bought. No card. I assumed a mix-up, perhaps another family with a nearby plot. I asked the groundskeeper the next week. He shrugged and said lots of people visited. It could be anyone. August brought carnations. Different again. September, a small American flag tucked into the vase holder. Dad was a veteran, but I hadn't brought one this year. October, a typed card propped against the stone. "Thinking of you, Tom." No signature. I took photos of everything and started to feel uneasy. November, snow on the ground. Footprints leading to the grave. Smaller than mine. Fresh. I followed them back to the parking lot. Tire tracks, already fading. December, I bought a trail cam, small, motion activated, strapped high in a nearby tree with a clear view of the plot. I continued the visits. The first Saturday in January, I went as usual, talked, left. A few days later, I checked the memory card. Footage from 3:12 a.m. the night before my visit. A man, mid-50s, my height, my build, dark coat, standing at the grave, talking animatedly, gesturing with his hands, pouring from a flask, leaving flowers. 40 minutes. His face caught partially in the moonlight. My face, older, gray in the beard. I watched the video over and over, zooming in, pausing. It was me, but aged 10 or 15 years. I took the card to the police. They reviewed it, searched the cemetery records, ran the partial plate from the parking lot camera. Stolen plates. No matches in databases for lookalikes. They suggested it could be a relative I didn't know about, or someone playing a cruel prank. I pressed for more. They increased patrols. I stopped visiting for a while. Told Sarah I needed a break from the ritual. It was stirring up too much. The cam kept running. Every first Saturday night around 3 a.m., he came. Same routine. Flowers, flask, talking to the grave. Like he was catching Dad up on his life. March. I couldn't stay away. I went back, hid in my car with binoculars. He arrived right on schedule, parked in the shadows, walked to the grave. I got out quietly, approached from behind. "Who are you?" He turned slowly, smiled. My smile. Older. "You're early this month, Ethan." His voice was deeper, gravelly from years of smoking perhaps, but the cadence was mine. I stepped back. He didn't advance, just turned to the grave again, continued his conversation, softly as if I wasn't there. I drove home shaking, called the police from the apartment. They arrived at the cemetery. No one. No vehicle. No footprints in the fresh snow. But the flowers were fresh. A new note, typed. "See you next month, brother." Brother. I hadn't told anyone about the footage. No one knew what he looked like. I dug into Dad's old papers, boxes I'd stored after the house sale. Found letters from a woman in Indiana, dated 25 years ago. Love letters, photos, a boy looking just like me. At age 10, Dad's handwriting on the back. Tommy Jr., my other son. Dad had another family after Mom left. A woman he met on the road. A son, raised separate. Never told me. The boy, Thomas Brooks Jr., would be about 50 now. The age of the man in the footage. He'd found out about Dad's death from obituaries or old trucking friends. Started visiting the grave to mourn the father he barely knew and to watch me, the brother he never met, from afar, learning me, to feel connected to the family he missed. Police found him, living quietly in Indiana. No record, just grief and obsession. He admitted everything, the visits, the notes, the imitation. Wanted to know his brother, the one Dad talked about in rare phone calls. He never meant harm, just connection. I met him once, at the grave. We talked about Dad, the man we both lost. Different versions, same pain. He's gone now, back to his life. I still visit, first Saturday, alone. But sometimes I leave 2 coffees, just in case. He's family, after act's all. The only one left.